What's going on, people? Welcome back to another opposition preview. Trust me, you do not want to miss this one, as I'll be talking to Pete from LoadedHQ ahead of the game against Newcastle. We'll be talking about manager chat, takeover, and many more. But as always, if you do enjoy the episode, give a thumbs up and also subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Pete, Newcastle United, over the last couple of weeks, you have literally become a new club. Manager gone, owner gone. What's the mood like around the club right now? I've seen the videos. I think I know what it is like, but I want to hear it from you.
Honestly, D, it's party time all the time right now, and you know what? We don't want this party to stop. It's as simple as that. Look, 2 weeks ago, we were flat out. We were on the floor. You know, with a week or two previously, we'd just lost to Wolves away in probably one of our worst performances in our recent history. It was that bad. Probably since the time that we lost to Sheffield United, we were the first team to lose to them last season. It was probably just as bad as that, and we didn't think it could possibly get any worse. And then all of a sudden, all of our hopes and dreams that we've been waiting for 14 years, but in particular the last 18 months, has just come at once, and it was out the blue. It wasn't predicted. It was just within one day, bang, the takeover's happening, and within 24 hours, bang, it's done. And our lives as a football fan has changed forever. They have, because we now have hope and belief again in our club. So it's an amazing feeling. Got to be honest, mate.
Yeah, well, I think you're the richest club in the world right now, or up there anyways, which is just absolutely crazy considering the last 14 years you've had. But realistically, quickly going on the takeover then, what are your expectations this season?
Well, first and foremost, to stay in the league. Look, being honest with you, we had a quick chat just off air. We haven't won a game this season, and we are desperate for points. Second bottom, 3 points. A horrible Norwich team, like an awful team this season, at 1 point behind us, which I think tells us everything we need to know. So we're in a position now where I think, we just need to stay in this league. We need to consolidate our position in the league. There's a lot of the media talk about, your Mbappe's, your Messi's, all the rest of it. I have to say, it's all media driven. The Newcastle fans, you speak to any Newcastle fan, that's not what we want. We just want a team that's ambitious, that's going, or at least looking like it's going in the right direction. And we believe under this new ownership, and certainly from what they've said since they've taken over the club, is that's where we're going to go. But we need to first and foremost be in the Premier League, at the end of this season.
Well, them questions they ask you, where do you see yourself being in 5 years' time? As Newcastle, as a football club, realistically, what happens in 5 years' time? Is Mbappe playing at St. James's Park? Is Messi, and literally, is it gone absolutely crazy and you're winning every trophies? Or, maybe you might want to just win 1 trophy or 2 trophies in the next 5 years' time. What are your expectations personally from this takeover looking ahead?
Well, you know what, mate? If you'd have asked me, you'll win 1 trophy in your lifetime, I would have took it, because I've never experienced it in my lifetime. So, if we could win it in the next 5 years, amazing. Any trophy, I'm talking about the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, any trophy. Not just talking the league or the Champions League. We just want to be successful. We want a team that's successful, or certainly looking to be successful. So you asked me the question, where I think we'll be in 5 years. I certainly don't think we'll be having Mbappe and Messi in our team. Look, those guys are driven to play at the best top clubs in the world. And although I love my
you
club,
might be one in the next 5 years. You might be one of their clubs.
You know what? In terms of being up there challenging, it could well be the case. But these guys, these clubs, like Mbappe wants to go to Real Madrid. They are absolutely dripping with history and trophies and power within the game, and that will always win over everything, even money at times. So, do I see them at our club? No. Do I see our owners and the consortium building that type of Galactico team? No, I don't. I think they'll build from the ground up. We're already looking at a potential director of football or sporting director in terms of building a philosophy and an identity of our team, because that's what's been lacking for 14 years. We've missed that. Whereas we were the entertainers before Mike Ashley turned up. So I see it being a build, a gradual build, young, hungry, talented players coming in mixed with experience. A little bit like how Man City built their team. They built their team over time. They didn't go for huge names initially. I know they signed Robinho, but it wasn't really the same. And honestly, in 5 years, I believe with the way the Premier League is now and the way outside the top four, it's kind of anybody's ball game. I do believe that we'll be up there at least challenging for Europe, and that's the Europa League, potentially the Champions League. I do see that between 3 or 5 years' time. I think we have to remember these guys are the richest club. We are the richest club in the world. Saudi Arabia, the PIF, PCP, the Reuben brothers, they are multi-billionaires, and they don't like being second best, particularly the Saudi Arabians. So I believe that once we're stabilized, they will significantly pump money into the club.
So let's talk about Steve Bruce. He is officially gone. No more at Newcastle. Many Newcastle fans wanted him out with Mike Ashley. It must be a relief for you.
I tell you what, I didn't think it was going to happen. We expected it. It was mooted in the press. All the northeast journalists were talking about, Bruce is going to get sacked as soon as the takeover went through. It went through a week, nothing. It was going through this week, and it's a bit like, is this actually going to happen? Is this actually going to go through? Are we actually going to sack him? And it felt like sort of a never-ending story. But we got the fantastic news yesterday that he's gone. He had to leave the club, D. He had to leave the club. He has been our worst manager in our history. 28% win percentage. Is the worst manager in our history. It's the facts are there. He's won 7 games in the last 38 that he's had as manager of this club. That is relegation. I think out of the last 12 or 13 seasons, I think 11 of them would have resulted in relegation, something like that in the stats. I don't know for sure, but it's quite close to that. Awful statistics for a manager that supposedly had 1,000 games in management and meant to be this great manager. So all the pundits tell us. It's not the case. He is an awful manager. He hasn't got any tactics. He's still living back in the 90s. We have had, out of 11 days, we've had 7 days off training. 7 days out.
What is he doing? What's going on?
You know what? That is the question that we're all asking as Newcastle fans. What is going on? How can you, at the top elite level, which is Premier League football, have 7 days off out of 11 when you're preparing for 2 Premier League matches? It's not good enough.
And you're in a relegation zone as well. It's like it's not like you're at the top of the league and you're ahead by like 10 points, so you just want to take a little break. You literally are fighting for not fighting for your lives at this point, but you are fighting to stay up. That's how I see it personally at this point. Anyways, you haven't won a single game, which we'll be talking about. It makes no sense to me personally. Even thinking about maybe he wants to give them a rest, but you don't give them that much of a rest. You got work to do. Clearly, they haven't deserved it so far.
Definitely. And you know what, Dee, just to add to that, is that one of the things is our players look really unfit. They look extremely unfit. So if you've got a group of players in your squad that it's visible that after 60, 65 minutes that they genuinely look tired, all of them, they look sharp. If you've got players and you know that that's the case, they need training more than ever. And the fact that you're continually giving them days off it's neglect. It's neglect of a professional footballer. That's what it is. But we're all very clear as Newcastle fans that the days off are there to satisfy Bruce's time schedule, not the players. He wants a day off to go gallivanting, maybe have a round of golf and a few kebabs and a few other things that he likes doing in his spare time. I joke about the kebabs, but in reality, it is to suit his own timetable, not for the players. And I think it's proven detrimental to the players in our performances.
Realistically, who do you want as your next manager? Look, there's lots of names out there. I think Fonseca, he's now leading the race. There's Lampard, Eddie Howe. I've said it before when talking about the matter. I feel like if Newcastle rush the process, it will haunt them down because realistically, you can't bring in any new players till January. And also, you are right now in a relegation zone without a single win. So you can go extremely fancy with your approach. But if that manager has relatively no experience in keeping up a club, then could it potentially cost you? Maybe that's how I'm seeing it. And of course, you guys will probably see it differently. But who do you want as your next manager?
Okay, it's a tricky situation. It has to be said. Me and the Loaded lads, we talked about it on our Loaded Mag show yesterday. We had a Bruce reaction show to him being sacked, and it's a difficult situation. And I kind of played it out in phases. So look, ultimately, the consortium want to get the best manager they possibly can. There were quotes out from Fabrizio Romano yesterday from Jose Mourinho saying that basically that he turned down the job, in his words. So basically he'd been offered the job. There's been links that Zidane had been offered the job and he turned it down. The same with Conte. So they're clearly looking for a top end manager, but the predicament that we're in, naturally those top end managers are not going to come to us. It's just the reality of the situation that we're in. So I broke it down into two phases. Now, the three managers that have been heavily linked with us at the moment are Paulo Fonseca, the ex Roma boss. Funny enough, Mourinho took the reins off him. Lucien Favre, ex Borussia Dortmund manager, ex Nice manager, and then you've got Eddie Howe, the ex Bournemouth manager. Obviously went down with them a couple of seasons ago, and they are the three candidates. You've got Gerrard as an outside, but I don't think he'll leave Rangers, if I'm honest. But they're the three main managers. Now,
Would he not leave? Maybe if he's given the project, look, if he's given a clear path that we're going to back you, we want you to be here long term, and we want to go and achieve the greatest things for this football club, such as playing European football like you're doing with Rangers right now. If you give him a clear progression path, then wouldn't he maybe want to leave? Because in the long-term future, it might be better off for him being at Newcastle than Rangers.
It's a great question. And ultimately, that's down to the owners to be able to sell the project to him. Do I think he'll leave? He's on the verge of winning back-to-back titles at Rangers and basically putting himself he's already a kind of a legendary figure, but even kind of solidifying that by winning back-to-back titles after 10 years of dominance from Celtic. I don't know whether he would leave that right now. I think if it was in the summer, I think it'd be a different conversation. And that's where, because he'll be financially backed, that's for sure. And I don't think he'd come to us if he wasn't. But I think that's where it comes down to my split opinion with regards to this, in that I think the reason why it's taken the consortium so long to make a managerial appointment is because they're unsure of whether to go for a short-term manager, a manager that's going to solidify us in the league for the season, and then we then go for a big-time manager in the summer, or whether they want to go for their 3 to 5 year vision of a manager right now. And I think that's where they're torn. And I think that's kind of reflected in the three managers that are heavily linked with us. So, in my opinion, if I'm going to go for a short-term manager to the end of the season, I would go for someone like Eddie Howe. And the reason why I would go for him is because he's a talented young manager. He's only 42, but he's been managing in the game for quite a few years now, way into his early 30s. But he knows Callum Wilson from his time at Bournemouth. He knows Ryan Fraser from his time at Bournemouth. He knows Matt Ritchie from his time at Bournemouth. He plays a system that could get those guys playing and understand that formation and that style of play. He plays an attractive, expansive type of football that would suit our other attacking players like Alan Saint-Maximin, Miguel Almiron, Joe Willock. He'd be able to organise the team, not just in a forward way, but in a defensive unit. He is known to concede goals, but he scores more goals than he concedes. It's one of those situations. But I think his influence and his relationship with players would get us playing instantly. And I think if he could solidify us in the league, I think we could either then entice him into a longer term contract or move him on and get someone else in on a short term. If we were looking at say a 2 to 3 year project for a manager, that's where I think it would be slightly different. And that's where I think it would be more so of a Lucien Favre, or in particular, the heavily linked Paulo Fonseca. And the reason being is because I don't believe those managers will come in just for the remainder of the season. Their managerial profile is a lot higher than Eddie Howe's. But I think also that those guys know how to build teams, and they know how to build them from the ground up. And with that, and from that perspective, I think it would be a better option to give them time to do that. For me, Paulo Fonseca could come in and instantly change the way we play football instantly, because we don't have a style, we don't have an identity, we don't very rarely at times have a set formation. Our players are all over the place. You'll probably see that on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is because we have no identity in a way of playing. Fonseca or Favre would instantly command that. So would Eddie Howe. And that already makes us 30-40% better as a performing team. Now, I look at our squad list and I look at the players that we've got. We are not a 19th place team. We've got players that are not good enough, granted, but so have many others in that bottom half of the table.
100, yeah.
And for me personally, I think that we are the team that should be higher up in the table. And if we had a manager with an identity and a philosophy and a way of playing, I think our results would improve straight away.
Well, talking about results, unfortunately, you haven't managed to get a single win so far this season. Going into this game, is it a must win for you guys? Is that how you're seeing it? Or you're saying that we got a bit more time, we still haven't got a manager in, and we can actually, even though this game we shouldn't lose, it's not really a must win yet?
Every game's a must win, because if we don't win these matches, what happens is the gap starts to build, the gap starts to get bigger, and if the gap starts to get bigger, it's going to make it even harder for us to try and claw that gap back. Now, currently, it stands at 3 points, and we need to make sure that we are getting as many points as we possibly can from all of these games. Now, our run of fixtures coming up are not great. Obviously we've got yourselves on Saturday, we've got then Chelsea at home, we've then got Brighton away. All three tough teams, all teams that are in form and playing well at the moment. So it's not going to be easy, but we need points on the board right now. We want to be. I said to the lads at Loaded, if we're not in and around the 20-point mark, between 18 and 20 points, maybe 17, 20 points by the time we get to January, then I've got serious concerns about us. Now, we will strengthen heavily, but even with us strengthening heavily in January, we've got to go and win those matches. And when you're up against it, it puts you under even more pressure. So, this is a massive game for us. There's no doubt about it. A massive, massive game. And you know what? We had to get rid of Bruce this week, because going in with Bruce on Saturday, I would have said it's a guaranteed loss. We'd have got absolutely hammered. You guys would have wiped the floor with us. And you know
that's why I'm upset.
you might well still do it. But the difference is that there's a lot of players in that squad that didn't want Bruce as manager. And I'm looking at a reaction of some of those players that are now free of Bruce, that are able to express themselves in a different way. So I'm hoping and I believe that we might see a very different performance than what we've seen in recent weeks in this season so far on Saturday.
One more game. All it needed is one more game, and you guys just had to sack it right before our game. So who's going to be in charge? Who do you think is going to be in charge for this? Is it going to be the kid? Your Bruce is this is the manager. I forgot his name.
Graham Jones.
Yeah. Is it going to be him?
So the club confirmed yesterday, after the announcement of Bruce being sacked, that Graham Jones will take the game on Saturday. Okay. Now, arguably, the Newcastle fans have suggested that Graham Jones has been doing all the tactical stuff since he came into the club in January anyway.
So that's great.
But with Bruce having the final say, it could well be that it's hampered his ideas of what he sees the players, how the players are playing. So maybe we might see some different personnel starting on Saturday. The likes of maybe Jamal Lewis, Fabian Schär may come into the team, and maybe even a different style of play. This is Graham Jones's opportunity to kind of put his vision of how he sees this current squad of players playing on the pitch. So it's all really intriguing, because as Newcastle fans, now that Bruce is gone, with Bruce there, we could have told you exactly what the team was, exactly how we'll play, exactly how the game will pan out, because it always does with Bruce in charge. We're actually going into the unknown. So we as fans are not knowing who's going to get selected. Dubravka's back training. He's back training this yesterday. Fantastic goalkeeper, and would be, a huge asset to us going into the game Saturday. So it's all in the unknown. But the one thing that we are confirmed of is that Graham Jones will be taking the game on Saturday.
What have you made of Palace so far this season? I'm not too sure if you were in that category, but lots of people wrote off Vieira as soon as he stepped in the door. Say Palace are going to get relegated. Vieira ain't the man, which I wasn't too sure why, because personally, majority of the Palace fans haven't seen Vieira manage, and also I'm pretty sure the majority of the neutrals didn't see Vieira manage. So it was a bit confusing why so many people wrote him off straight away and they didn't give him a chance. But so far this season, the only teams that we've lost against are Liverpool and Chelsea, and we've had, if not one of the hardest fixture lists to date right now. We face the likes of Brentford, West Ham. We also face Tottenham as well, which is debatable if that's a hard fixture. To be fair, you guys still didn't manage to get a result against them, but they've been a bit shaky. But we've had some hard games, but we still managed to be up there, couple points off the top 10. So what have you made of us?
You know what? I think you've had a really good start to the season. With Eze being out, I wasn't sure how you guys were going to adapt to that, but you went then and brought Edouard, who is a terrific striker. I would have loved him at Newcastle personally, but under my cash, it was never going to happen. He was not going to
too much. Yeah,
not even too much money. He just doesn't. He doesn't tend to invest that level of money in good players. As we know, Joe Linton cost 40 million in his garbage. But in terms of Palace, with Vieira, it was always a case of wait and see, because it's easy to write off a manager that maybe has had unsuccessful spells elsewhere. Sometimes they need to find their right path. And it looks like, in the way in which the Palace are playing at the moment this season, that he's found his right sort of path at Palace. Because, I watched that game on Monday against Arsenal. Like, you guys were so unlucky. More than
let's talk about it.
You guys had 3 points. You completely dominated them. You were by far the better team for the vast majority of that game. And what I like about Vieira, that he's looked at the areas that you needed strengthening, and he's improved in those areas. So at the back, you've got now two steady centre backs. Is it Guy?
Mark Guay and Joachim Andersen.
And Anderson as well, who again is from Lyon, terrific centre back. So you strengthen in those two areas, because in those areas you had the likes of Scott Dan, Gary Cahill, who's I know.
They're just like it was just like literally, it was so risky.
They just finished their cycle. They've just kind of in terms of when they get to a certain age, you need to freshen it up, and that's exactly what he's done. And then with the addition of Conor Gallagher, who's a fantastic centre midfielder, and I know Bruce was actually really keen to sign him, but again weren't allowed to. Mike Ashley stopped that, and he's gone to you guys, and he's proven exactly why he should be playing at Premier League level. So you've really improved those two areas, and then again you've improved up top. You've got a guy that knows where the goal is. And then the key thing is you've kept again a hold of Wilfried Zaha, who is your talisman. When he doesn't play, you don't always perform at the same level, and he is a very influential player. So look, you're starting to build a really nice team there, and you've got a manager that wants to play in a very particular way, and you can see that coming through. So look, I've got no doubts this is going to be an extremely difficult game for us. We don't always travel well to Selhurst Park anyway. I know we won there last year, but you guys had a ton of injuries, so did we.
And a certain manager as well that I don't even want to talk
Yeah.
about.
So it was a very, very different type of game last season to what it will be this Saturday. But look, you guys are in a very, very comfortable position. I think you're always talked about as being in the relegation zone or in the relegation fight. For me, this season, I think you'll be very comfortable. I think you won't even be in that discussion this season, just because of how Vieira's got you guys playing.
Yeah, well, hopefully, anyways. It just depends on whether we can see how many 95th minute go. Literally, in the last 2 out of our last 3 games, we've conceded it in the 95th minute, and we've just bottled 3 points just in the bag like that against Brighton, yes, Arsenal as well. So if we take that out of our game, then right now would be only 3 points off the top 4, which is kind of crazy considering that we was looking at literally relegation zone not so long ago under Roy Hodgson, and the whole club's mentality has switched. I'm not saying we're focusing on top 4, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying we're looking up the table rather than down the table, and would only be 3 points off that magical 4 numbers if we didn't bottle the lead. But that's Palace for you, of course. So finally, score predictions. We both seem like you're excited about the game. I'm looking forward to it as well. I think it could be a high scoring game potentially. But how do you see this one going?
Well, firstly, I'm excited because I just received my tickets. I'll be in the away end tomorrow on Saturday, so I'm really looking forward to that. The first away trip without Bruce and Ashley. So I think the following will be like something like nothing else on Saturday. We always travel well. In terms, I am excited. I'm excited because I'm not sure what to expect. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I certainly it'll be. I think Vieira will be a little bit hesitant in terms of his formation and how he sets up, because I think there'll be an element of him not knowing how we're going to set up either. But look, I think we could get a point on Saturday, but I think there'll be goals in the game. So I'm going to go for either a 1-1 or a 2-2 for this game.
Look, if you had seen Bruce, it would have just been a whole completely different story. Like I would have been looking forward to this. The way that things were going so far this season and the pressure that he was under, I would have said, I think we could have got the 3 points. But now that you got a caretaker manager, you don't know who's going to be coming in as well as your permanent manager. I think it's going to be the whole dynamics of the game has just changed based on that. You've got some quality players, Anna St. Maximum, Callum Wilson, as you said, and some other players that we didn't even talk about much in depth. So you got decent enough players to stay up, and I think they'll be fighting in this game. Anna St. Maximum scares me the most because when he's on a ball, this guy is just off. Like you cannot stop him. But I'm going for 2-1 win. I'm sorry, Pete, but we just have to win. We've only beat Tottenham this season. We've had some very good performances, and now that we're at home, I think we're one of the many teams in the UK that haven't lost at home so far this season. I know it hasn't been that many games, but we've been all right at home. We've mainly been drawing. We beat Tottenham at home as well. So I feel in this game, I think we can just edge it. Because Zaha's going to be back. Zaha wasn't at the Arsenal game. He's going to be back. So Edouard was on form. Benteke was on the score sheet. I don't know if he's going to be starting. So I think it's going to be a bit too early maybe for you guys to go and get that win. Hopefully, anyways, hopefully. And we go and get that 3 points because we desperately need it to push on. It's been so frustrating. We've been pushing for it and we're just never there. We just can't finish. But yeah, I'm going for 2-1. But let us know in the comment down section what you guys think about the game and your score predictions as well. And Pete, before you go, where can they find you and also your channel as well?
Okay, so my Twitter handle is on the screen, @Daves 2010, talking all things Newcastle. all the time. You'll see my opinions and how things are going, and you'll also see me promoting our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel is LoadedHQ. We have a couple of shows on there. Well, a few shows, in fact. We have Loaded Mag, which is our main Friday night show. The away day show that Diyar will be joining me with later on today, where we talk to opposition fans. And then we have a live line show where we get fans from the club to come in and share their opinions on anything Newcastle United related. So lots of content out there. We've only been going 5 or 6 months, but already approaching 2,000 subscribers, which is, in that short space of time, is fantastic. And we're one of the fastest growing rising Newcastle podcasts that are out there at the moment. Please give us a follow. Please subscribe to our channel and show us that support, and chip in with your comments and suggestions. Always welcome, mate.
Yeah, Loaded HQ. That's where it is at for Newcastle. Thanks to Pete for joining me. Thanks to everyone who's been watching. And until next time, up the Palace.